What's up, everyone? This is Shenj. Now we have some changes coming up next week. I believe it's on March 5th, so next Tuesday. Uh, there is some big class adjustments, especially for the Mage. That's what I want to focus on. And let's take a look at the notes. So Hunter, and I don't know too much about Hunter, but it seems to me most of the changes are for PVE. I think the marksmanship hunters are not doing so well in PVE right now, so I think they tried to buff the spec a little bit to make it more appealing to some players. Pretty straightforward changes, you know. All the damage boosts are not very significant, so I think this is more for PVE, you know, in a long fight. Yeah, pretty straightforward. And next one, Mage. So Frost Fireball base damage increased by 50%, and the spell damage, the bonus spell damage increased by 60%, identical to Fireball. Spell Frostball, same thing, identical to Frostball. So the problem, I think this is also a PvE boost, because I think the problem with the Frost Fire and the Spell Frost is that you will never ever use these two spells in a PvP situation alone, unless you have the Brain Freeze, right? Because you could just use Fireball and Frostball. There's no reason to ever use Frost Fireball. You know, it takes longer to cast, and it does almost the same, you know, less damage before. Right now it's the same damage. So yeah, that's the problem. You need to have two rooms to make it work. It's only the proc chance for Brain Freeze is only 50%, so it's really RNG based. It takes a 2-room slot, and it only does what, like 300, maybe 350 damage and no crit, because you know the Brain Freeze will never align with any shatter, right? Unless you get the Fingers of Frost proc. You know, that's a big if. Yeah, it's pretty RNG dependent. So unless, you know, in a PvE situation where you can, you know, manage your Fingers of Frost and the Brain Freeze in a more efficient way, you know, where you can get like a most efficient proc on the Frost Fire or the Spell Frost, I think mostly they will probably mostly use the Frost Fireball. Otherwise, in PvP, it's not going to work. So I think this is for PvE boost, mainly for the Frostback. They try to make the Frostback more viable, I believe. And the next one is Regeneration, Mass Regeneration, and the Chronostatic. Spell power coefficients increased by 88%. Now this is pretty nice because right now your spell power gears can boost your healing effect on the spell. My problem with the Chronostatic Preservation is that the base damage, the range of the base damage for the Chronostatic is too wide. Like, the gap is too big. From like 600 to 900, the gap is too big. So there's a little bit RNG effect in like how much healing you're gonna get from the spell, right? Because if you get like really bad RNG, you can get like only 600, like 6 plus. So if you get like good RNG, you can get like 900. So it's really RNG dependent. With the spell power coefficient increased, is that gonna change much? I don't think so. It probably could boost your RNG a little bit. For example, if you get like 600 before, if you get like 600 healing before, but now you can probably get like 700 or like 750 something. So it's still within the range of the healing, unless you get like the top end of the base damage. If you get like 900, you probably get 1000. Yeah, I think this is still an RNG problem with the Chronostatic. The base damage change, not very much. You know, unlike the regeneration, the healing effect from the regeneration is pretty stable, right? You're always gonna get a fixed amount of healing, but from the Chronostatic, it fluctuates pretty hard. The next one is Chronostatic Preservation mana cost decreased by 44%. Now this one, I have said this, you know, in the beginning of phase 2, that the mana cost for Chronostatic was too high. You spend 360 plus mana to sometimes get, you know, only like 600 plus healing. That's not very efficient of a spell. But they finally, you know, decreased the mana cost. I'm very glad. This is going to be very helpful in PvP because, you know, it's going to put more pressure on your enemy because they have to, you know, DPS. They have to put a lot of a DPS pressure on you in order to kill you, because you can store the energy unless it's like a hunter or like a rogue or something. A lot of class they have to cast. So in order to put more pressure on the mage right now, they have to cast more, which means they are going to move less, which means they have to sit in living flame more. They can kite it. So yeah, this is gonna be ultimately make mage a like hybrid class, you know, both healing and do damage kind of class. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, next one is Warlock. So for this one, I think this is pretty much a PvE change for, I think, a demo Warlock. You know, for destruction, they will take the Shadow and Flame. I don't think they will ever use this one, right? 5% chance, I'll rather take the Shadow and Flame. Yeah, this, I don't think this is gonna work in PvP. Like I said, this one, any RNG based spell is not good for PvP. It's not sustained, it's not consistent enough. So this is a little buff for the demo Warlock in PvE. And warrior devastate damage increased to 150%, and it was 100%. So the issue with warrior is that it's not a single target threat. I think it's more of an AoE threat, right? The change of devastate damage could maybe potentially, you know, make warrior a great off tank, which they already are. You know, I don't think the single target was the issue. You know, yeah, that's pretty much all the changes. Mostly, you know, for PvE changes. A little bit of PvP for the mage, which is nice. You know, your mage haven't got any buff in a very long time. You know, the last buff was the water buff. Thanks for watching.